welcome back to PA Chalk Up. I'm your host Manny, and today we have another Will guest on. It's something that I've been trying to get a little bit more uncomfortable and reaching out to coaches that I've been watching and sort of admiring from afar. But today we have Coach Joey G. How we doing?
I'm doing great, man. Appreciate you having me on.
It's all good. What we were, what I mentioned in the lobby um, is true. I've been watching you for a couple of years now, 3 years, I think, and again, just watching you from FAU to now at the Tulsa, it's been a great journey to watch as well. So I'm excited for this conversation.
Yeah, man. I appreciate that. It's a new deal. We put our stuff out there a lot, and it's really interesting to see, like, almost like we're creating like a network without even knowing we have a network. And it's pretty cool to see guys admire the work we're doing, because that's all we're trying to do is just do a good job, do right by our athletes, and put out good content.
I think that's the most important thing is when we start going away, right, away from what our egos and our things, and just really think about the kids and making sure that they've got the best program that they have. Um, but before we get ahead of ourselves, if you give us a little introduction on who you are, what you do, and how you got to where you are. Have you ever wondered how I'm able to run my business, my podcast, and still be able to coach? Well, I use TeamBuildr. TeamBuildr is an all in one coaching software that reduces the amount of time that we spend on the back end of programming, on our Google Sheets, on our Excels, and allows me more freedom to do testing. With this podcast and episodes, I'm actually able to run some programs that I learned through different coaches coming on. To find out how you can use TeamBuildr and how it can apply to your own program, visit the link in the description and catch yourself a 30-day free trial. Just simply use code PACHALKUP, that's PACHALQUP, and start the next stage of your coaching career.
Yeah, so I've been coaching 15 years. I started out as an unpaid intern, just like everybody else. Did my time. Was at LSU, was at FAU, a few other places, an unpaid guy. Did a graduate assistantship at Northwestern State. Ended up getting promoted to head strength coach, going into my second year there. I was about 23, I think, when I got that job. So definitely wasn't prepared and ready for it. It was a unique journey. Spent two years there, 2 seasons there. Got a call to go to Ole Miss to work for Paul Jackson, who is, in my opinion, one of the best strength coaches in America. And got a master class in learning how to be an elite coach for 4 years. Surrounded by some really, really talented assistants that have gone on to do some really good things in the field. Guys like Dominic Stanisky, Lanier Coleman, Anthony Crosby, Julian Whitehead, just to name a few. And we developed a real camaraderie and a real competition as far as continuing growth. We all had a humble approach, and we pushed each other. Sometimes got on each other's nerves a little bit, but it made us all grow. I ended up having the opportunity to go to Colorado State. I was there a year under Ryan Davis, where I got education and just had to connect to players, and then the business side of it. He really helped me out from understanding the financial means side of it, managing money, creating external revenue streams, all those different things. Like, that dude is a savage when it comes to that. He ended up taking the job at Maryland, and I got promoted to head strength coach under Mike Bobo in 2019. Unfortunately, the year didn't go our way. We ended up getting let go. I got retained by Steve Adagio when he came in, but the job at FAU was too good to pass up. I spent 5 years down there, got a ton of memories, a ton of kids that created a ton of relationships with a ton of guys and athletes down there that, were going to be lifelong, and was a great experience. And then had the opportunity to come here in January at the University of Tulsa and work for Trey Lamb, which has been about as good as it can get. He supports the weight room. He cares about the weight room. He cares about making sure that he prioritizes it. And, we've been recruiting really well, and, we're looking forward to having a really good season.
Nice. You've also, this is one of my favorite topics because I personally don't believe that you could be an amazing strength coach without really going through the unpaid system, which
Mhm.
a lot of us have been through the unpaid system. And what's your thoughts on internships and unpaid and working your way up from there?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it created who I am as a professional in a career. right? Because it's extremely humbling. So like
Mhm.
majority of these guys that you see now and women nowadays, they're former student athletes. So the way the system is with student athletes is a lot of things are catered to them. All right. So like, they get meals, they have set schedules, they have all these things given to them. And I was the same way. I played college football and I got out of it and I was expecting just to get handed things, and you get humbled really, really, really quickly when they hand you a mop and they tell you to mop the entire weight room, or they tell you to tie a band and they make you do it 5 times in a row to do it right. And it's that humility should carry all the way through your career, because the one thing that you know everyone has to realize, you're never as good as you think you are. You're never as bad as you think you are, but you're never as good as you think you are. And there's always stuff to learn. There's always growth. And that's something as a young coach, you think you're better than everybody. You
Mhm.
think I know more than everybody. And it's like, all right, like, you tell me what they call it now and I'll tell you what they called it 10 years ago. It's like the guys have gone through this, guys have been through it. Like there's so much wisdom out there. And if you're not willing to grab it, like you're really stunning your own growth in this career. It teaches you to work too, man. Like,
Mhm.
like that intern process weeds a lot of these people out. Like it does. Like I've seen it. Like, at FAU, we carry about 5 to 10 interns every semester. And by the end of the semester, I mean, we're down to 3 or 4. And it's a demanding career. There's a lot of sacrifices that go into it. But, once you go through that process, it really challenges you and makes you who you are. I'll never forget those dog days of being an intern, and like being like, all right, I got to set up 25 sleds with 4 plates on each of them, and we
Mhm.
got to be in there at 4 o'clock because we got a run group at 6. Like, figure it out, man. Like, you want to do this or not? Like, get after it. So I think it's extremely valuable. I think that it's come a long way as well. Like, I had the fortune of having some really good intern coordinators that push the continuing education side as well.
Mhm.
LSU and at FAU, and they really pushed us to educate ourselves, to read. They gave us materials. They challenged us on the floor with coaching cues. Like they taught us their progressions. So I think there has to be that side as well. Like I just don't want to create an atmosphere where all you do is come in here and work for free and move plates. Like I want to develop a coach's Rolodex. Like
Mhm.
if I have a paid intern spot open, I want to be able to hire a former intern. Like I got a former intern who's a paid guy here. He's about to get another bump and be my associate head strength coach here. And he started out as an intern for me 4 years ago. The guy that just got promoted at Kansas State, Ray Thomas, he's now the head strength coach at Kansas State, a great team that I think they won 10 games last year.
Nice.
He was an intern for me in 2018. And it's awesome to see these guys elevate and push and really just continually grow. And it just it builds my brand, it builds their brand, and it just creates a really, really cool network to see these guys,
Mhm.
just mature and grow through it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a product of Coach Ron McKeefery, and he's the exact same thing. Like if you show like he's got this thing where in his internships you're drinking water from a fire hose, and I think that perfectly encompasses what S&C is. You're going to get pulled a million and one directions. You just have to either sink or swim. So to then like hear your experience where now people are coming up to assistant roles, director roles, or like these roles that actually are at the top and they can like sort of implement what they've learned from you and like what they've learned from their experience as well. How is that to sort of watch take place?
Yeah, I mean it's awesome because like I got into this field to to really add value to people. Like I had a strength coach that was extremely impactful in my life, and I always loved training in the off season. I love football. I could have been a football coach. I just didn't like watching film and recruiting and all those things. And I always loved the training process, and I always loved the mentor process, and I loved the camaraderie. And I'm like, my strength coach in actually junior college, named Dos Remedios. He was like, yeah, you can do this for a living. Like he's like, you go to school for exercise science, you get a degree, you network and you get a job, and you could do this for a living. And that really just changed me because it's like, all right, like I love adding value to people. I love the mentor side of it the most, right? That's the most rewarding thing. Like one of my claim to fames is like one of my players, like his kid is my godson. Like that's
Mm.
that's what it's all about, right? It's about winning games. Don't get me wrong. I love winning and I love competing. I love it, and but at the same time, it's you create these lifelong relationships. You create these, you basically expand your own family you
Mm,
know, and that's awesome. And it doesn't just go to players; it goes to your assistants, and it goes to your interns, and it goes to everybody. You know, the running joke right now is like, I give out more jobs than the government does because I get, I just had an intern or a assistant go to Kansas State, and it's like I think that's my 21st or 22nd assistant that's moved on to a better paying or higher profile job since I've been a head guy, and it's all about elevating people around you because it comes back around, like it really does. And
mm.
I truly believe that is if you help people around you, if you're good to those people, if you work hard, good things will happen and manifest for you. And then at the end of the day, what kind of legacy do you want to leave? Like when it's all said and done as a coach, like I want people to talk about me, in a way that, reflect who I was as a person, which means, that
Mm.
I cared about them, that I helped them, that they could always rely on me, that I was always consistent, that I always was willing to grow, and I was always willing to challenge them to grow, and that's something that I want to leave a legacy of.
It goes back to that phrase where we're trying to leave this industry better than we found it. And I think I had a conversation with Adam Fight, and he summed it up brilliantly. It's like no matter what you do, you want to do it the best you can and involve as many people as possible to change this industry in a positive direction. Because like with the social media and everything else, it can be quite like this dark hole. But if we've got pockets of people that are like really pushing the good message and just different ways of training athletes, but really caring for them. I genuinely think that's why I do this podcast. Is like I want coaches to see and experience what I'm fortunate enough to sit down with great coaches and talk about S&C and just making sure that I'm still progressing that industry forward.
Yeah, I mean, that's at the end of the day, that's what it's about, right? Like if you a rising tide lifts all ships, right? If kids see that you care, if your assistants see that you care, man, they're gonna give you so much more than just the 9 to 5 attitude, right? Like the
Mm,
just get it done attitude. And you know, you got to be a credible leader at all times, especially in the position I'm in as a head strength coach and running a department, having five guys under me, having 105 athletes, like you got to be credible, you got to be consistent. They got to see it every
mhm,
day, right? Like because just like anything, like people are always looking for the chink in the armor. They're always looking for you to be a different person, and like you got to pride yourself on that consistency, and you got to pride yourself on your moral values and really your internal philosophy on why you do things and. Your behavior's got to emulate that at all times. Is everyone going to like you all the time? Absolutely not. But like they all should respect the fact that you're trying to be the
mhm.
best person and trying to add value to them.
100%. You also kind of mentioned like the business side of S&C and how you were sort of exposed and introduced to that side. What's some of the things that you thought later on that now that you've developed as the head guy that you've kind of not changed your mind on it, but sort of learned to adapt and what really matters versus what's some fluff?
Yeah, so like the biggest thing, I used to be the guy that like if you were promoting yourself, if you were putting out external material, like if you're a college strength coach and you were putting out external
Mm.
material and doing all that, I used to put my nose up at it and be like, man, what is this guy doing? He obviously doesn't care about his own like the rhetoric that follows that, right? And it wasn't until that we got fired the first time as a family. And you know, that process is extremely scary, right? It's uncertainty, it's unknown. You don't know who's going to call you. You don't know if you're going to get the same kind of financial status you had previously. You don't know a lot of things. And at the end of the day, like you're in charge of taking care of your family and paying bills. Like you have to like have that ability to give comfort to your kids and give comfort to your wife and make sure that they feel secure, even though it's a very unsecure situation. So, when that happened the first time, I started looking towards outside revenue streams, right? Like, how can I get passive income? How can I create that so that, God forbid we get fired? Like, I have rainy day money, right?
Mm.
And the other thing is this is burnout is real. Like, it's a young man's game. Like, I just saw, Derek Owens is 29 years old at the University of Indiana. He's making 900,000. Like, they're always looking for younger, more energetic guys and I'm on the back end of on my 30s, which makes me old. Apparently, I found that out when I went to conference. It makes me old, and
Look, the business side.
yeah. So I mean, you got to at the end of the day, you got to provide for your family, and burnout's real. Like like I don't know if I can sustain the intensity and the amount of energy that I have now in 10 years. And I want to make sure that salaries in college football are good, especially for the positions I'm in. And I want to make sure I maximize my revenue streams. I want to maximize my income. I want to make sure that I'm doing everything necessary to get financial freedom, because at the end of the day, the wave crashes, and I don't know when that's going to be. I felt it a little bit this last go around. When I got let go from FAU, and it was you sit around, you wait, you wait, you wait. I was in a lot better situation than the first time at Colorado State, but at the same time, like that's an uneasy feeling. I want to not have that feeling. I want to be able to say and have the ability to walk away from football if I wanted to. And right now, I currently don't. I'm working towards that, and I think creating passive income, like I tell my guys all the time, I'm like, you guys should put programs out. You guys should create LLCs and consulting firms. You guys should be doing things to create outside. You should train kids on the weekends if you got a chance, as long as they're not a PSA, as long as they're not getting recruited by us. Like you should do all those things because you never know when you're going to have to do those things.
Mm,
There might become a time where, like I said, you get let go and your name's not popping. You're not getting jobs. What are you going to do then? Are you just you're going to go, be a garbage man? You're going to go sell insurance? Like, what are you going to do? Or are you going to find a way to continually financially support the people around you? So, it's extremely eye opening. And then once I got into it, I was like really shocked at the perspective of having more financial revenue streams.
mm,
Like I was shocked at how much an effect it would have on my monthly and even like my weekly process as far as paying bills and all these different things. And then it opened up more opportunities for investments and all these other things that come along with it. So it just opened up a whole other world that I didn't even know really could exist, that I used to just like kind of clown. And now I'm like, all right, like these guys had something to them. Like if you're getting $400 a month just for putting a PDF out that you don't have
mm,
to touch or look at and you put out one time, like that's awesome. Like you should do that. If you can go on the weekend and train 20 young kids and charge them $20 a head, like for an hour and a half and make, $400, $500, you should do that. Like there's no reason in the world you shouldn't do it. And then the other thing is like you're giving back. I
mm,
think the biggest thing is people are scared to put themselves out there the most. And that's in anything, right? That's with the content people put out. That's with all these different things. Like people are scared to put themselves out there because they're scared of what the opinions formed on them are going to be, because we're a very judgmental profession, right? Like everyone knows better, everyone has a better way. Like no offense, and part of my language, I could give a fuck what people think about me. Like I don't. Like I care about what my head coach thinks about me. I care about what my family thinks about me. I care about what my players think. Anybody else, if you're not in the room with me, I don't care. I
mm.
really don't. So I'm gonna put my stuff out. You don't like it, you're still gonna watch it. So like to me, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter. Like
Um,
it doesn't matter. Like I'm still gonna put it out. Like you could disagree with it. I get it all the time. I get people like what it is. I get the trolls and the hate all the time, just like a lot of people do. Like I look at Max Shamarza, he puts out great stuff all the time, and people still clown him. I'm like, all right, like this dude's wait. Like I've sat in a room with that guy. Like he'll talk circles around any of us. Like he
mm,
understands training process better than any of us, and people still are like, oh, you don't know what you're doing. Like what your programs suck. I'm like, oh, like it's incredible. So again, when you don't care, when you want to just put out good content and you want to help people and you just want to, again, like increase your brand and increase your name and your reputation, like to me, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna put it out there.
mm.
Like
No,
at the
that,
end of, I'm sorry, go ahead.
yeah, no, that's super valuable as well. Like, I'm obviously in Scotland where S&C isn't anywhere near what it is in the US, and I'm having to like create my own path and really pave that way. So like everything that you're saying is bang on, and I'm very fortunate that I don't give a fuck about what people think or say. So like it's but you are 100% right. Like I've seen some really high end coaches and some really like good content being made, but like the comments is just slating them. And I'm just like, let's find something better to do with ourselves.
And again, it's keyboard warriors, right? Like these guys
Mm,
that, and that's the other thing that is probably becoming an epidemic more than anything, is like you get all these gurus and
mm,
all these proclaimed, specialists and this
experts.
and
Yeah.
that. And I look at them and I'm like, all right, like how many people do you actually train? Like when I break down how many kids I train or how many sessions of like people I train over 400 people a week. It's like my sample size in a month is more than what a lot of these people get in a year.
Mm,
And I'm like, so you sit behind your screens and you judge and you do this, like you don't know environmental context to anything we're doing. You don't know the athlete. and the history of the kids we're working with, you don't know a lot of things. So like, how are you going to really
Mhm. Mhm.
make a judgment on what we're doing? You know, and a lot of it now is like, unfortunately, it's like clickbait. Like they want to
Yep.
say something controversial to draw attention to themselves. You know, and
Yep.
I give Kier, rugby strength coach, credit for it because he became like damn near a millionaire using it. But now it's, unfortunately, you got a bunch of people that follow suit in this that don't have the credentials or the resume that he had. And it's like that's all you see now. It's like, all right, like, but then it's funny because then you walk through conference and some of these gurus and these guys, and then you go to these clinics and they're all scared to say things and they're scared to even walk near you.
Mhm.
You
Yep.
know, and it's like, all right, well, like I come from a place where like if you got something bad to say it to my face or don't fucking say it. You know, like I'm all for it. Like don't hide behind a keyboard now, you know, like
Mhm.
but and it's unfortunate because it does curt curtail some of the people that may put themselves out there that have value to add to the profession from a content standpoint.
Mhm.
You know, and it some guys don't want to talk. Some guys don't want to put themselves out there because of that environment, which is unfortunate because it's like, if anything, you're going to better yourself and you're going to learn something,
Mhm.
right? Or someone's going to learn from you, which is like, again, what we're in it for.
100%. I a couple months ago I was going through this rut where but like the clickbaity stuff that is all over our feeds, it's like it gets so much attention and you're kind of like fuck, like I'm trying to make and push content out that like yourself is like for the athletes, for coaches to develop, but someone's ragging on an athlete and it gets thousands and thousands and thousands of views and you're kind of like fuck, I don't want to
Yeah.
do that. So it's very easy for like this new generation to get into that rut where they're like, to be successful I have to talk shit, and then it becomes this thing where like this industry can't grow because of that. um we've got a similar saying in Scotland and it's chat shit get banged. It's like if you're good chat shit, at least make sure that you can hang first.
I like it.
In terms of the systems, obviously you've been at different couple of programs. How have your systems sort of developed and progressed through your experience?
Yeah, I think when you look at systems, I think it's principle based systems, right? So like every situation is unique, every demographic's unique. Um, the kids are unique, the style of play is unique. So like you have to have these guiding principles, these scientific principles to formulate
Mm,
your program. Like obviously I've been doing it a long time now and I've kind of created, I guess you could call a system or catalog or general templates to start my planning process, right? You always gotta look at the first thing that I think people really make a mistake on is what's the school calendar? Like
mhm,
what time are you allotted? When are you doing spring ball? How many hours a week are you allotted from the head coach, right? Because now with all these new rules in NCAA, like
mhm,
there's so much more involvement from the position coach and it changes things. And I think that you have to start out with like the logistical side of it first. Like formulate your calendar. Like that's the biggest thing for me is the first thing I do whenever I look at anything before I put a rep or a set down on paper. Like I'm looking at the calendar because that's going to dictate everything. Like in the summertime, like for instance, like we have a 5 week training block. We're going to split into two blocks. So 3 weeks, then 2 weeks. Then I give them 10 days off and we come back with a 3 week training block. So if I were to just to write down on paper an 8 week plan, it wouldn't work in that
mhm,
format, right?
mhm,
Because it just wouldn't flow the right way. So for us, it's all about, okay, how do we maximize the time given? What is the coach going to be requesting time wise as well? And then what kind of playing style are we getting used to, right? Like so like last year we were more of a huddle team with the coach, the previous staff I was with, and now I'm on a staff where it's no huddle, it's fast tempo pace. It's like that's a different training, specifically
mhm,
conditioning for that. Like a repeat sprint ability, repeat explosive ability now is at a premium. Not that it wasn't, but I could get away with more extensive tempos and I could get away with more power development. Now it's like we have to hop into that glycolytic system. We have to make sure that we're tapping different energy sources. We got to make sure that we're doing different modalities in those conditioning. Like, how do we get them prepared for practice? And every practice is different based upon the head coach you work for. So,
mhm,
getting the logistical side down, understanding what you're training for, like, and then having your template, right? Like, having your catalog. Like, okay, are you a high low program? Are you a power strength split? Are you an upper lower? Whatever it is, whatever works. Like there's different times of the years where we utilize all kinds of different splits, and I think that's really the art of it, is applying the principles given the time parameters and given the time of year you have and where the athletes are at that time of the year. And that's where I think, it really separates good coaches from bad coaches, is like being able to see and anticipate what they need and where to bring them before you even get there. And obviously data is going to tell you a lot of that. We rely
Mhm.
heavily on data, like force plays, GPS, or VBT, all that stuff, to really audit and give us either reinforcement in what we're doing is working, or give us evidence that we need to adapt and we need to maybe go left versus right at that point in the juncture in that training period. So I think that you can't go wrong having a simple template
Mhm.
that, because simple can turn complex very easily, right? Like I read Dan John's book Simple Strength, and it was like, all right, like explosive movement, squat, hinge, press, pull. If you have those right there, like you have a very, very comprehensive program. And I know that sounds so simple, but there's so many avenues you can take that, right? Like there's so many things you can do that. But if you have that to where you can always fall back onto it, you should have a solid program, 10 out of 10 times. Another thing is like understanding rep ranges and understanding
Mhm.
intensities, right? Like I count reps. I have been heavily influenced by Bob Takano, who wrote the book Olympic Lifting, where he pulled the Russian rep counting system out. But then and then more popular the book The System that came out, Johnny Parker,
Mhm.
Al Vermeil, Al Miller, Rob Panarello, where again they dived into it as well and counting these reps. We have an adaptation of that, right? Like if I were just to pull it straight out of the book with the running, with the amount of plyos that we do, I'd kill kids. And I almost did
Mhm.
the first time I implemented it. I was like, yeah, we can use 1,000 reps in a 4 week cycle. Dudes were dead by week 2. And I was like, oh shit, I got to back up. I got to make sure we
Mhm.
adjust. So again, having, a principle based system, okay, which in theory, like on paper, like this is what you're supposed to do, and then adapting and applying it,
Mhm.
because now I understand the ins and outs of it, because I have gone and done the research on it. I have read through all those manuals. I have directly talked to Johnny Parker and Rob Panarello and Al Vermeil and all these guys. Bob Takano passed away, unfortunately, but I would have called him as well. And it's like you get deeper understanding of these principles and how they applied it. And now you take those same things and you adapt it to your circumstances and your athletes, right? Like when I was at Ole Miss, they needed way less volume, because they were so explosive and so athletically endowed compared to some of the kids I have now. I have 10 to 15 kids that fit that mold here, but majority of my guys need more volume in order to get the same adaptations and the same performance benefits that those kids at Ole Miss did just by walking by the weight room, because they are just genetically
Mhm.
endowed, right? Like, so understanding that as well, understanding, all right, what are some common trends amongst your team, or like, when I took over at Colorado State, we were I call it, we had a team full of flat tires. Like our top end speed was dog shit, was just bad, and it's not anyone's fault. Like it just, you evaluate, you audit, and then you try to enhance it. So that summer, instead of doing more acceleration based stuff, we did a ton of plyometrics, like a ton of plyos, a ton of assisted plyos, a ton of max V work, and it paid off when you go and you look at our speeds in season. They increased, and they were maintained throughout that entire season. So again, like knowing who your kids are, knowing where to bring the
Mhm.
program, and then having your template to match it and fit it, right? Like you have to have some kind of foundation, and it always boils back to the same principles, right? It always does. Progressive overload, accommodation, specificity. Like it's always the same thing. Like how and whatever your flavor is, whatever your modality is. I tell people all the time, like I'm an Olympic lifting guy. Like I love it. We're gonna do a ton of it, right? I could teach you how to do a Louis Simmons wide stance box squat. All right. Do we use it? No, we don't use it. But I should know how to do it. Like a mechanic knows
Mhm.
all the tools in his shop,
And toolbox, yeah.
and so I want to make sure that I have the ability to coach every single type of modality, or have an understanding or an outlet to teach me more on those modalities, even though I might not use it. Okay. Because again, I'm not married to exercises. I love Olympic lifting.
Mhm.
I got a kid with a fused wrist. He can't clean. Like, what am I going to cry about it and make him hurt himself? Like, no. Like, we're going to go ahead and we're going to adapt and we're going to go to Plan B. So I think having that exercise catalog alongside of your template and your principles really just magnifies what you can do and the product you can put out there.
Wholeheartedly agree with everything you've just said, and the simplicity in programming. Now, I was taught this by Brian Fink, who's a great S&C coach. He was at UW with Coach Mac, and he's also the one that introduced me to the system. And he was in charge of the whole programming, actually, like in the program. Coach Mac oversaw everything, obviously. But he was once on his computer just programming. I was like, what's your system? Like, what do you consider? What do you look for? And he was like, I my biggest thing is I need to make sure that every pull is accounted for and every push is accounted for, but they both match. And it was like, and that to me was so simply described, and it's so simple. Oh yeah, like if I push, I have to have a pull. That
Mhm.
I was kind of like, why isn't that the first thing that we get taught as S&C coaches? It's something that we learn through speaking to each other as opposed to like educational wise. And it kind of then spun me on this thing where like we've all done a goblet squat, right? So like what's one up from that? Okay, maybe you get a bar, then maybe you go back squat, then maybe you get belt squat or whatever. Like you can progress exercises really quickly. You can also regress exercise really quickly. So being, like you said, married to these exercises, you're kind of dying on an unnecessary hill because it's like exactly what you said. Am I going to make a kid clean that has fused wrists? That's
Yeah.
stupid. You're also going to reduce the amount of playing time that he will have in the future.
It's all about, I mean, the golden rule is do no harm to the athlete.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so whatever we're doing, if there's a trend or if there is a, a like you said, a regression or even sometimes a lateralization of an exercise
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
is gonna that is going to bring the kid pain-free training, I'm going to use it. Like I'm gonna use it. And that's where you have to really expand your catalog of
Mm-hmm.
exercises and you have to understand regressions, progressions, lateralizations, and you have to have a deep understanding of your own program to be able to make those on the floor decisions, right? Like that might be a kid's doing a front squat and tweaks his lower back. Like it happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
The best strength coaches in the world have people get hurt. It is what it is. I mean, shit. I'm a 15-year vet. I hurt my back on Monday. Like it is what it is. You can't program and prevent all these things all the time. But okay, are you going to shut that kid down, or are you going to put him on a trap bar? Are you going to put him on a leg press? Are you going to put him on a glute bridge? Where do you go from there to make sure
Mm-hmm.
that Plan B that he's still training? Because A, that's going to help recovery, and B, we can't lose training days. Like I have an 8-week summer. We're going to do a 4-day split. Okay. That's what, 32 sessions? Is my math right there? 32 sessions. Okay. Like if I lose one, that's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot. That's a high percentage of a training period that I'm losing. And it's my own fault because I'm being stubborn on the fact that I don't want to make altercations to these kids. The other thing is like with the transfer portal, you're adopting a
Yep.
lot of guys that get hurt. Like we're bringing in 2 kids that are coming off ACLs, right? One's 6 months, one's 5 months, and it's like okay, like you're gonna train them like the regular population? Like no, you can't. Like it's unknown where they stand as far as in their return to play process.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then B, they've never trained. The biggest thing with me is like a lot of guys, the first 6 months struggle because they're not used to the intensity and the volume that we train at. So again, like, am I going to throw them into that knowing that we have to get them on the field in 9 weeks? No, absolutely not. Right? Because I don't need them in a hole that they're not climbing out of. So again, like you got to meet kids where they're at. And a
Mm-hmm.
lot of that goes back to a good understanding of the principles and the exercises you're using. If you don't know your own program, how
Yep.
the hell can you make alterations and get guys where they need to go? And a lot of
Mhm.
times, like you'd be shocked at how many people just copy and paste programs out or don't
Oh,
have
I
a
know.
rhyme or reason, And it's
I'm
I'm
aware.
not I'm not trying to be that negative troll, but at the same time, it's like a calling to like really understand your shit. If you are writing a program, you have an obligation to understand and train the things you're training. That's why I like the system so much because it allows you to train the things you say you want to train. And you
Mhm.
know exactly how much is going there. You know how many reps, what percentage of my total volume is going towards these exercises that are going to drive a specific adaptation, right? And For me, that's extremely valuable because I always want, I'm not taking a shotgun approach. I'm taking a sniper's approach. Like
Yep.
I want to make sure I hit the mark or be as close to it as possible, right? Like I don't want to guess. I don't want to be like, oh yeah, that's good. Like the days, writing a workout up on the whiteboard and walking away and just saying, hey, it's good are over. Like we have all this information that we can get and we should use and like to guide these training processes to make sure we're getting better results. And the other thing is now we're under a gun. Like again, I'm bringing in 14 new kids that are going to transfers that are expected to play when we suit up on August 30th to play our first game.
Mm,
Okay. Like I got to get them in the best shape and physically prepared for practice. Okay. To handle the work capacity that's involved with our practices first and foremost. Like the performance side of it's going to suffer a little bit. It's going to have to,
yep.
you
Yep.
know,
Yep.
I hope we still increase performance metrics. But I
Hmm.
got good belief that we will. But at the same time, like, what's more important? Getting them ready to go attack a 17 period practice that's about an hour 45, where they're going to get 7,000 yards, or trying to increase their vertical, 2 inches. It's you got there's a checks and balances system there
Hmm.
as well.
I usually ask this question at the end, but because it's very much in the same topic, and it's experimenting with your own training to then trickle it in into your athletes' training. Now, the reason I started doing this a lot more is I've had shoulder surgery. I played rugby. Apparently, rugby is terrible for your shoulders, as I found out. So I've had surgery. I've had like the whole nines. So bench pressing, which it's kind of meatheady, but I still love to bench press. It was causing me pain, like a lot of pain. Like I just couldn't do it. But I've noticed that if I put fat grips on, I get bench pain free. And it's like it's this thing of just like adding things or taking away things, and that lateral side step of it that kind of I really enjoyed. Like I once did a whole month of 50 pull-ups every single day. Like nothing really happened. My lats got juicy as shit. Like I just got henched, so I was like sick. But how important is it to experiment with your own training to then have that trickle down effect to your athletes?
You need skin in the game. You need skin in the game. You need to go through things that they go through. Like, fortunately for me, I was a athlete, a collegiate athlete, and you know, you go through a lot of those things just organically because you are training for football and you're in those summer months, those dog days, you're doing the same type of condition and all those different things. But, I think you have to take training serious, right? Like you have to, that's where, like you said, you figure things out. Like I tore my pec. I had to do my return to play for my pec. Um, that was eye opening. It changed a lot of
Mm-hmm.
things for me, like as far as just how to deal with shoulder injuries, how to deal with, the whole return to play process. It definitely made me grow as a coach, right? And I wouldn't have found any of that out if I just stopped training,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, so
Mm-hmm.
again, it's like, okay, like I always look at it like I'm at the age now where I can't do the same amount of volume as these 18 to 22-year-olds do because I just get chewed up. But it's like, all right, like how do I adapt my training to be very similar? Like I want to be explosive. I want to be athletic still. Like I want to aesthetically, I want to have some kind of look to me, right? Like those are all things that I balance in my own training, and I approach my own training process very disciplined and very consistent, like they do, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
again, it goes back to your athletes are going to see a lot more than they hear. Like so, when you go ahead and you talk about being committed to a process and all those things, like if you're really sloppy looking, they're going to look at you and be like really, like I'm supposed to take your advice? Like look at you, you know. Like there has to, and I'm not saying you got to be a bodybuilder or anything like that, but there has to be evidence that you are in that same training process as them, that you
Mm-hmm.
are attacking the weight room when you take it serious, that you are, you have some strength to you, like it matters, or some speed, or some kind of attribute that makes you a little bit different. I think it does matter. People are gonna say, "Oh, it doesn't matter. I'm still a good coach." Like, all right, like, but you still got to put that. You got to still look a certain way. You
Mm-hmm.
still got to be able to go and attack things a certain way.
It also helps you identify where the suck starts and when it ends, because like I feel like you're then able to coach your athletes through that. And it's like I know this sucks. I've been through it, but let's fucking keep pushing. You will see it will end, and you will see the results.
Yeah, I mean, I always tell our guys like diving in the deep end of the pool. Like once you're there, it's scary the first time you jump in, but once you're there, you can live there. You could always go back to it. And I think for me personally, like I like challenging myself. Like I believe in hard things, drive growth. So like I'm
Mm,
gonna put myself in situations like that's why I got into Muay Thai. That's why I got into BJJ. That's why I look for ways to compete. Like you hear me challenging my coach to a drive competition. I suck at fucking golf. I can't swing a golf club to save my life. I'm gonna find a way to drive his ass though. But like putting yourself in those situations where it forces growth is beneficial for you as a person. Like, and that's something that I personally really believe in is it's person before player, and it's the same thing. It's person before coach. Like you should drive your own personal growth, and you should have things challenge you. And
mm,
sometimes you got to create it yourself. Sometimes organically it shows up. Like for us, our players, like we challenge them, right? It's there every day for them. Like as a coach, like I want that too. Like I want to get challenged. Like I want to have that because it keeps me sharp.
mm,
Like you said, like it teaches you where the suck is and how to push through it. Like to me that's extremely important because again, you're living what you're talking about. When I get up there and I talk about toughness and being able to get a job done no matter what the circumstances are, like I have to have that feeling as well. Like I have to have gone through that myself, and that's all part of it. I think, like my mentor Paul Jackson, he's gonna kill me for saying this, but he injured himself the other day doing a power clean. Dude's like 42 years old. He's still trying to push his clean max up. Like it's like, what business do you have doing a power clean at 42 years old? Like I'm like, dude, like, and it's scary because I was like, damn, like it was a pretty significant injury. I'm like, golly, like, is that going to be me in like 8 years? Like, but at the same time, it's like, man, like he don't care. He's like, man, throw it on a bar. I'm gonna throw it up. And it's not going to shock me when he comes back from
mhm,
the injury and he's doing cleans again.
yep,
Like to me, there's a correlation between people that like to push themselves and compete and the success you have. Like they go hand in hand, right? Like if you're an achiever,
100%.
you're an achiever in majority of areas in your life. And to me, that's like I want to be the best dad. I want to be the best coach. I want to be one of the strongest guys on the floor. I want to still be able to dunk a basketball. Like there's things that I want to still be able to do. And we play pickup basketball. I want to be one of the best ones on the court. If we go and do a drive competition, I want to out hit my coach. Like those are things that to me, like that competitive side really drives that growth side as well. And it
Mm.
forces you to go through harder things.
I think it's also very important to have competitions within house, and I don't know how to explain it, but it's like it's a different type of competition when you're in with your interns or your coaches, and like someone says, "I bet you can't do that," and you have to do that. Like there is no other way. You have to do
You got to be careful though, because I've gotten into some heated arguments over competitions because I've had some competitive guys around me and I'm competitive and you got to be careful with that sometimes.
it. Speaking of injuries and sort of coming back, what's your recovery process within yourself and then for your athletes after like a very grueling season that the NFL, not the NFL, the collegiate side of it is?
Yeah, I mean, I used to be the guy that would like preach like you need to get right back in the gym, right? You get
Mm,
done with a like so. I trained AJ Brown of the Eagles, and I'd always give him shit. Like after his rookie year, I was like, "Let's go, let's get back in the gym. Let's go. When you getting down here, when we going, when we getting after this training." And you realize there needs to be a reset. There needs to be
mm.
a
An
decompression.
off season, yeah.
There has to be. Like right now, our guys we're in intercession right now. We don't start back till the May 27th, and it's you know, majority of them have stopped lifting last week, and I'm okay with them taking 2 weeks off. There has to be a decompression to it, right? Like because of the monotony of training, because of the intensity and the demand from a psychological and a physical standpoint, like you can't sustain that, and people end up dropping off. Like it happens.
Mm,
And the thing that I've asked myself more recently than I have in other years is like, how do I keep the training process fun? And
mm,
yeah, I want to, and people are gonna be like, "Oh, you're getting soft." No, like we're gonna be hard on them. We're gonna train hard. There's gonna be elements of toughness that need to be in there. There's gonna be a lot of things that a lot of people couldn't do except our guys. But at the same time, how do we keep it fun? How do we keep it light? How do we have enjoyment? And that's the thing that I'm looking at is like the enjoyment side of it is critical. 'Cause the more you enjoy it, the more you endure it, right?
yep.
Like you can endure it more. So like for me, it's like all right, like that reset is critical because it allows you to breathe. You get away from the building, you get away from everything around you, you get your mind right, you come in feeling fresh. And then how do we maintain that feeling as best as we can throughout that training process and that in season
Mhm.
process as well, knowing that if we do enjoy it more, there's going to be a higher return and a higher performance aspect of it. So that's one thing that I've really balanced out, and it's doing goofy things sometimes. It's bringing the guys on a deload week to the pool. It's having skits, before practice. It's whatever it may be, like whatever your flavor is. It's a certain
Mhm.
song that you put on, or a saying you have that you get the guys to all contribute to, or whatever it might be. Like there's a million ways to do it, and I'm not here to judge those, but there has to be that. There has to be that. There has to be, and I look at that more, and then, um, you know, easing them back in. Don't overcook the steak, right? Like that's the biggest thing is like we all want to prove how smart we are and we all have these new fancy methods of
Mhm.
training and we want to get there so fast and it's like slow it down, man. Like make sure they're prepared for it. Like the longer you prolong it that you can within your time frame, obviously from what you have, the better the result at the end's going to be. I was extremely worried about this offseason. Like we took over a new program. We had to establish specific technical standards in the weight room as far as exercise techniques go, and we did some like generic testing on week 4, and I was like really underwhelmed with our results. I was like, oh shit, we're not where we need to be. And then you fast forward and we add a little bit more advanced training with a really good base of technical work and slowly progressing their work capacity. And week 8, they blew the fucking doors off it, and it was like, I was shocked. I was like, it was some of the best testing numbers I've seen in a testing week since I've been coaching. And I'm just like, holy shit. Like, and it's eye opening because it's like, you want to rush it just like everything. Right. We're impatient. We want to microwave everything. You can't microwave a training process, you know, you can't do it. So, like, that would be my advice. And with anything, with injuries to it and all this stuff, it's like, don't rush the process. Don't
Mhm.
rush it. Like, take your time, establish the foundation you need, establish that work capacity that you need to handle and sustain higher intensity training, and it's going to take care of itself. It
Yeah.
will.
It's like taking an extra week, uh, as opposed to not having an extra 5.
Well, it goes back to like Louis Simmons always said, like always leave one rep in the tank. Like,
Yeah.
like I take that approach to heart. Like I'm looking at I planned our first, I planned the entire summer, but I'm going, I got too much time on my hands, so I'm overthinking and over criticizing myself. But I looked at our first week's volume and I'm like, I had it down on paper for 2 weeks. I actually even sent it out to all my assistants that are on vacation right now. And I'm like, this is what we're doing. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, this is too much. Like, let me
Mhm.
back off a little bit, let me just a little bit. Like maybe I'm gonna take instead of doing 5 sets of front squat, I'm doing 4. Like something as little as that will have a significant effect later on in the training process.
Mm. So yeah, you mentioned slow cooking it, just making sure that volume starts at 2 as opposed to 5, and then slowly progresses through. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, don't get me wrong, you need to train. And I think some
Mm,
people
mm.
mistake slow cooking with not training. Like there needs
Yeah.
to be training
Yeah. Yeah.
and there needs to be a significant amount of intensity and volume that accompany that. Again, you meet your players where they're at, right? Like I don't have to start where I did in January now because of
Mm,
what we did in January and what we did in February and March. You know what I'm saying? So now we can advance it a little bit. So you meet them where they're at, but they still got like we still trained hard in January. It wasn't like it was just come in here and foam roll and do 5 chin ups and leave. There was significant training that occurred, but at the same time, when you slow down some of the progressions that you want to get to, I think that's really where the magic happens, right? Like
mm.
you really save some of the higher upper level intensity stuff for later on in the training process, and that returns high. Like we
Yeah.
haven't got to our power strength split yet. Like we were straight, you know, lower upper split or high, like a true high low, like a true
Mhm.
high low, all the way through the spring because I felt like they were not ready for that intensity and that amount of volume and work capacity necessity that accompanies that type of training split. Now, when we go into week 4 and we get into our power strength split, I guarantee our number is going to jump because again, now they're prepared for it. They can get more out of that now versus if we were to
Mm.
hop into it and put them in a hole in the springtime.
So you're kind of looking at the off season as a means to build some capacity, build some background, to then when they get into their preseason, they've already got a baseline that you can progress from then on.
Yeah, to me, it's all about getting them prepared for the demands of practice. Like,
Mm,
how do I create reserves? Right, everyone's familiar nowadays. Most everyone with speed reserve. I take
yeah.
that same principle to every single strength. Right, so elastic strength, peak force, rate of force. Like, how do we create reserves? Eccentric strength. How do we create these reserves that are not only higher, okay, but like that are significantly higher than what are the demands of a daily practice going to be, right? Because if they can withstand that, so if my guys are used to running, 20,000 yards in a week, okay, when we go to the first week of camp and they're running 14,000 yards, that's 6,000 yards less than what their company or what they're expected or used to running. So we're going
Mm,
to be able to recover better. We're going to be able to mitigate a lot of soft tissue injuries because their workload that they're accustomed to is way higher. The same goes in any respect of any position, right? And football is unique because it's a game of many games. Every position is different. I
mhm,
don't care what anybody says. Every position is different, right? And now the key and the art of it is figuring out what's important to each one of those positions and over preparing them for what's going to happen in a practice. And when you do that, you dramatically decrease injuries. You mitigate a lot of injury. You can't stop all injuries, right? Like
mhm.
there's anyone that says oh yeah, we stop injuries is don't listen to them.
Yeah, the chat
Okay.
shit.
Yeah, because they're full of shit. Because you're gonna get one or two hamstrings. I don't care how good you are at what you do, or how much speed work you like. It's gonna happen. You're gonna get some kind of contact injury, right? It's
Mhm,
gonna happen, right? Like I don't care how prepared you are. Like when someone runs up and falls into the back of your leg, what are you gonna do? Like you can't prevent that. So again, like, but at the same time, you can over prepare them for the repetitiveness. You can over prepare them for the strengths necessary to be good at their position. So like we formulate and we look at, all right, like in those support days, which are going to be those low days, like how can we build up the robustness and the work capacity of those athletes that's going to, you know, be higher than the demands of a practice. And when you have that, you feel really good about the training process and the athlete's preparedness going into those situations. And again, now what the beauty of it is like some people look at the coaches increase participation in the offseason, the sport coaches participation in the offseason as a bad thing. And I look at it as like that's the most specific thing they're gonna do. Like,
mhm,
and I tell our coaches, I'm like, this is my coach is awesome. Like I'm able to plan out practices, volumes, amount of live plays, when we're in shells, when we're in helmets, all those different things, because he trusts me that much in the planning process. But it's I could go up to our linebacker coach and be like, hey man, like those guys need about 1,000 more yards of work in
mm,
that middle zone, like between 12 and 15 miles an hour. Find a way to get it done, coach. And he'll be like, all right, cool. We need to do pursuit drill. Awesome. We need to do more tracking drills. Awesome. And that's where the collaboration side of it. And to me, I think that's where like I've seen the biggest benefit, increasing buy-in from the position coach into your program, and then increasing just the harmony and the camaraderie of the entire staff, and it feels as one to the athlete now because you're increasing the communication process and you guys are collaborative. Now you're working together to get the outcome you want. It's not my time and their time; it's our time, and we're progressing it. And then, I mean, what football player doesn't want to work football?
yeah.
Like, and no one signs up for to be a Division I football player and goes, yeah, I really want to run hundreds and 110s. Like no one says that, but a kid's gonna be like, man, I'll do 7-on-7 all day. I'll do
Mhm,
one-on-ones all day. I'll do indie all day. Like I'll work on my craft all day. Well, when you have the foundation work capacity to be that specific, to go general to specific, and then you add the position coach into it in the process of that, and you really streamline that continuum, like you get a really, really good training adaptation out of it. You can increase all the performance side of it as well as get them to endure what a practice is going to be and have them be better at their sport. And that's kind of where I've been at. That's kind of where my mind frame's been as far as getting
mm.
them there.
No, 100%. You also spoke about setting standards. How do you effectively go about sitting your athletes down and be like, hey, this is what I believe in, this is the program, and this is what our culture is going to be like from now on.
Yeah, I think when it comes to culture, you have to. The best metaphor is like this: is like water. Like your culture is water, right? Like the core pillars, the core values of your program are water. As soon as you see them, you pour it down their throat, like to the point where they don't want it anymore. Like you just have to. It's every day. It's every day they have to know what our cultural, what our core values are, what our pillars are, what we're gonna preach, what we're gonna be, and what we should look like on tape, and you can't ever back off it. It's a continual teaching process. And that's where, you have to have a curriculum involved. You have to have a plan in the
Mm,
system. Just like I have a plan in a system for our reps and sets, I have a plan in a system for our culture. Okay, who are we going to empower as leaders? What does that look like? How do we hold them accountable? How do we increase peer intervention? How do we test them on our core values consistently? How are we giving them examples of those core values in action? Right. So those are all things that like you have to think about and you really have to put in place. And it takes a lot of time, man. Like I used to be the guy like, man, just train hard and everything gets taken care of itself. And then it doesn't. It
mm,
doesn't. And it's a teaching process. It's something that is very, very demanding as a coach. Like I spend as much time, if not more, planning out my teaching progressions and curriculum for our core values than I do our actual rep sets and our exercises. Like it's because at the end of the day, it's like it's people first. You have
mm,
to, and the other side of it as well is like how do you drive that personal growth? How do you make that important to the player? Like how do you increase the behavioral psychology side of it? Like how do we give these kids more impulse control? Right?
mm.
How do we give them more emotional regulation? Right? Like those are major attributes to winning seasons and winning teams, alongside the connection piece and the camaraderie piece and the feeling of brotherhood and all those things. Like that's things that we have to feed. Like we have to provide that as because they're with us majority of the time.
Yeah. How how important is the psychology behind your program?
It's everything. It's everything. Like so for me, it's like it goes back to do you understand and have a general understanding? Like I'm not by any means like smart enough to go and sit down and analyze somebody like a psychologist does, right?
Mm,
But I could know enough to be dangerous. I can know enough to help these kids with their internal dialogue, their those soft skills, right? The self-talk, the emotional regulation, the staying in the flow state, like all those different things. And to me, it was really leaning on Viktor Frankl, and I read Man's Searching for Meaning, and it just like hit home, right? And then it got reinforced with Brian Kite and Tim Kite with their E plus R equals O, so event plus response equals outcome, and that's essentially this idea that Viktor Frankl drives home, that no matter the circumstances, you always have a choice on controlling your attitude, right?
mm,
And it goes along with when you have hope, you have a chance, right? Like when there's hope and belief that it's going to get better, a lot of things get better because of that, right? Because you're able to control those attitudes. So we really sit and try to teach our guys this process that like bad shit's going to happen. When you train and you have responses that are disciplined, okay, you're going to influence outcomes and you're going to get things in a better spot than where they were if you were to have a undisciplined response, right?
mm,
And that's all internal. That's all internal. So again, it goes back to that behavioral psychology that Victor Frankl. You have a choice to make. Like every single person has a choice to make against any given event that happens to you, whatever circumstance it is. You have a choice to make where you can positively influence that outcome or negatively influence that outcome based on that choice. But you have that choice, and
mm.
we try to give them the skills, the pressing pause, the breathing that comes along with it, the self talk that comes along with the mind cycle. Right, we have a process here where it's a play by play process where focus on what's important right now, attack what's in front of you and don't think, and then reset before that next event happens.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
yeah,
and
yeah,
we're
yeah, yeah.
and we drive that like that focus attack reset focus attack we drive that into our guys and have them train that consistently to make that part of their mental process, right? Like to make that, to help them really deal with really hard stressful situations. And we remind them it's on our shirt, like it's on the front of our shirt. It's on, it's something we talk about religiously. It's something that I text them, when I send out our daily core values text, I send them every day. They see it every single day. They're going to see it
Mm,
when they walk in the building. Because once you can make that your language, and once they adopt that process, it's only going to benefit everybody, right? Because now it's okay. Well, what do I do in a really hard situation? Well, first I focus on what I need to focus on. Then I attack it, and then I'm able to reset. And I know it sounds extremely simple, which again, simple usually yields more complexity. But at least it's a framework, right? At least it's a jump off point. Like it's just like a clean. Like I tell kids all the time, like posture, hand position, foot position. Like we have all these standards for our technical side on our exercises. Like let's set standards for our mental process. Let's give them a
100%.
foundation to really get after it.
One last question. If you could give advice to a new coach or someone wanting to get into this industry, what would be said piece of advice?
Find a way to coach and coach a lot of athletes. I don't care, intern, whatever, work for free. The more
Reps, few
reps you
reps
get at
in.
coaching, okay, and interacting with people, like it's great to have all this knowledge and read all these textbooks. If you don't have the personal skills and the soft skills to communicate to athletes and you don't know what you're looking at and what to cue, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you're a coach first, not a scientist, not any of that. Like, if you're a strength coach, go get exposed. The best thing that ever happened to me is when I went to Northwestern State as graduate assistant, they gave me 9 sports. I was on the floor all day long. And that's, guess what? Like it paid off. It sucked, but it paid off because I learned how to deal with every athlete. I learned what works, what cues work, what cues didn't work, how to come at certain kids, how to speak to other kids, how to speak to a female athlete versus a male athlete, how to speak to a soccer player versus a volleyball player. Like it opened up a whole new world because at the end of the day, you have to rep your skill. Your skill is coaching,
Hmm.
right? It's the 10,000 hour rule. Like to become a good coach, you have to coach a lot. And I think that's where a lot of the disconnect is nowadays.
100% agree. I 100% agree. Yeah, there's nothing I can add to that.
Yep.
I appreciate you for coming on and spend some time with us. If you let everyone know where they can find you and sort of get in contact with you as well.
Yeah. At Coach Joey G on Twitter or Instagram. Easiest way to find me.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Appreciate
Peace.
it.